Okay, all right, let's go. All right. And I know it's been a hot minute since we've
Yes.
done Daredevil Born Again series, the recaps, but one, we were not expecting two episodes this week. And two, I mean, baseball started and like
Right.
Will went to the opening game and I am like back in my scorebook keeping mode and
You and Tom
it's
Hanks, apparently.
yeah,
He
I
scored the
that's
Dodgers, I think.
right. Apparently, and they were like, everybody was like messaging me, and they're like, he's got the same scorebook as you. I'm like, well, it's pretty easy. You can buy him online. Bob Carpenter's scorebook, if anybody cares, it's the
There you
TV edition.
go.
They also have a radio edition, but I watch all the games, so there you go. And I love it. I'm like, it's so nice. It's so familiar. And although at one point I was like, this is completely off topic. It was like, I think I know, like, I always tend to get like left field and right field mixed up and just the numbers but I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. But Daredevil Born Again, episode 5 and 6, where we left off with four, was we saw Wilson Fisk, Kingpin, in the cellars eating his sausage pasta or whatever in front of Adam, which clearly you then find out that that's why his knuckles have been bloody this whole time. That's Vanessa's lover, ex-lover, because she doesn't know he's still alive. I think she has inklings that he's probably still about a boot, but not so much. And Daredevil is in his training montage, kind of like they're both shedding their skin of this their suit, and we'll get into that later, that just really doesn't fit as far as who they're trying to be, and it just they're like snakes that are trying to slither out of their old crusty skin. So episode five to me, 5 and 6 were completely different tones.
Yes.
It's like they took, it's like this must have been filmed prior or after. I don't know what it was, but you have Matt Murdock who goes into a bank trying to basically secure money because their law firm is not making any because they take on a lot of pro bono work.
Yeah.
Who knew? So he goes in and we see Kamala Khan's father, and he
Yes.
talks about her a lot.
He
And
does.
yes, and he's great, great character. It was nice to see him, but you can clearly kind of maybe see that they're angling for a Daredevil to be a mentor to these young champions, these young Avengers type. So talked about her a whole bunch, but lo and behold, it's St. Patrick's Day and a whole bunch of Irishmen rob a bank
Yes.
with masks. So, at one point he's going to get the mask. And he does a great I loved the stairwell scene of him fighting the guy, trying to be quiet, not alert anybody else. The grabbing of the rifle, to me, just masterful. We'll get into that.
Yes.
Fights him. They're looking for a gym. He finds
They're looking
out
for an Infinity Stone.
huh?
They're looking for an Infinity Stone.
Right, the Soul Stone. And then, but all works out well because, I mean, Daredevil's going to have his day. You find out that there was kind of a mole in the bank robbery, you know, all done. He didn't actually be Daredevil. He was actually just Matt Murdock, the lawyer, kind of using his brain more to fight these guys and to, um, you know, in this bank robbery without revealing his hidden identity as Daredevil because he's a blind lawyer. It would be a little odd if all of a sudden he, pulls out the jujitsu and stuff. Then we flash to episode 6, really dark episode, whereas 5 kind of light air. I don't want to say it was light and airy and funny, but it was. It had a
Yeah.
penguin and nun joke that if you missed it, I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
But 6, pretty dark.
Six was
Six
a
has his girl Matt Murdock's Daredevil's girlfriend talking about how she's writing a book on vigilantes and she'd like to meet Punisher and maybe Daredevil if he could hook her up so well. And on the flip side, you have Kingpin who's going to these galas and trying to raise money for his port rehabilitation project, and he's not doing so well. Hector Ayala's niece visits Matt Murdock and clues him in on the fact that her uncle was in fact um
investigating.
investigating these Muse killings, where at the beginning you also find out that the graffiti is not coming off the walls because it is Muse is using blood, and they're with a nice, very Law and Order cold episode, cold opening with a body. Angela Ayala lets Daredevil know, hey, my uncle was investigating this. You need to do something. He's like, as Will so wonderfully put it, I'm a blind lawyer. What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
Seems kind of dangerous that she would even suggest that he could do something, but
Right.
so you find out Kingpin in his eating is growing out of his suits. He is no longer fitting into this mask of a mayor that he is trying to be. Daredevil is slipping into Daredevil mode when he finds out that Angela Ayala has gone missing in her search for the Muse, which we don't get why she went after looking for him when you don't have the amulet nor the suit or anything, and you're just trying to track down a serial killer.
Even with all of that, I just feel like it's a known universal fact that you don't go into the subway tunnels. Like, I could have an Iron Man suit and I'd still be like, nah, I'm good on that.
I
She
didn't
just
want to
walked
pass on
down
it.
there with a cell phone.
Right. So, yeah, so Daredevil gets to Angela Ayala, I would say in the nick of time, but I mean, she at that point, Muse is already siphoning off her blood. Muse don't know where he got his combat training at, but it was a
That
good
was
fight
one of my
between,
notes. One of
yeah,
my notes is who is this guy?
right. Good fight between them. Cut with Wilson Fisk finally losing it and throwing an axe at Adam's feet and saying, let's go. Like he is full back into Kingpin mode. Cut to them both screaming at kind of Wilson Fisk screams mine at Adam, and kills, I believe, kills Adam. But Muse, I believe, is still left alive at the end of the Daredevil episode, but he does, in fact, rescue Angela Ayala and cut to black is where we're at. So, after all that, because it's 2 episodes and it's huge, what were some of the key moments that in episode 5 that stood out for you?
Uh, to me, the key moments that stood out was, like you said, the fight scene in the stairwell, and just the whole episode as a whole. Off the last episode, I was very critical of the fact that while I realized we weren't supposed to dive right into a Daredevil story, we had gotten 2 back-to-back episodes with zero Daredevil. This one still didn't give us a costumed Daredevil,
Right.
but it gave us what we needed, which was the vigilante fix. He was out. He was in the bank being Daredevil while still being Matt Murdock. So they stuck to their plan, but they did a great job of giving us what I feel we needed. And then the other part that stuck out to me, one of the notes I took was the alley scene, the alley fight scene at the end. That was a Netflix Daredevil fight. Like,
Yes. The
bottle to the
breaking of the
face,
leg.
close-up camera, the snapping of the leg. Like, it's not dark, so we weren't able to use shadows to cheap out on the
Right.
choreography. Like, it was broad daylight, it was close up, and it was gruesome. Like, that was a Netflix fight scene.
Yes. That was, yes, that I can't get the sound and the look of
Yeah,
that
that
knee
crunch
snapping.
is kind of in there. Sounds like a Dorito getting chomped
But
down on.
yeah, I will agree with you though. I think again because you had Kamala Khan's obviously her father in it talking about her constantly, but I mean like it was a little bit of levity. It, it was serious. I don't feel like I ever really worried that anybody was
The
going
stakes
to
were high, but not that high.
right, especially I mean like when you have them releasing the hostages
Right.
and there's not like you're like okay like I don't think anybody like obviously they're not going to kill Kamala Khan's father in a Daredevil episode like that would be wild to me because you
Yeah.
would then have to introduce her and like
Right,
that's
right.
yeah so it's like you knew those two were at least going to make it out of it so you're like yeah the stakes were high and you knew that there was going to be some shenanigans and Matt Murdock was going to kung fu somebody at some point because, but it was just a matter of getting him alone with one of the, a few of the
For
people to
sure.
do it.
The
So
only person I
very,
really feared for in that episode was the sanitation guy who makes a reappearance in the next episode, talking
yes,
about the hockey puck. He was like the one person that they kind of oddly gave more, the one hostage that I feel like got more screen time. So there was a
yes,
moment where I was like, "Oh, they're gonna kill this guy," but he was the only one when I talk about the stakes that I was like actually worried for. But I was like, yeah, that'd
right.
be but he
Right.
survived. So
Right. It's like I said, it you want to say light episode, but not light. I mean, there were obviously you get your some of your action fix. You
yeah,
get more of like seeing his brain work
yes,
in a situation where he can't don the suit. So how does he handle, saving the day as far as this goes? And
returning the diamond without flat out being like, "Hey, I beat this guy up and took it." So it's like, "Oh, we found
right.
it here." So using
Exactly.
his mind and his other senses and less the taekwondo.
Right. And how would you say, did you feel like obviously I don't feel like it moved the story. The episode five, we're just talking about episode five, didn't really, this reason it felt like it was one of those previously filmed or,
Agreed.
sh right, shoehorning it in, but
The
because it
only
did,
thing that moved forward was the heist, as far as we know, played into the 1.8 million that was owed to one of the families to the other.
correct.
And
Yes.
it still didn't move it that far along. It was just like, hey, acknowledging they are attempting to
Right.
settle that debt.
Settle
Other
that debt.
than that, yeah, it didn't move anything forward in
No,
this.
yeah, it didn't. There was no story movement, and it was like I said, wasn't a bad episode. It just wasn't moving us like the episode six did.
Correct.
Um, yeah, so that one's like I don't know how much there's really even to talk about that. Like, it's not that I'm like just trying to gloss past it, but I
Right.
don't know how much there really is to talk about that one as far as
I truly feel the whole point of that episode was when they were laying out after all the reshoots and everything, and they had all the episodes laid out. This episode was, hey, we know that episodes 3 and 4 are going to have zero Daredevil, vigilante, supervillain,
right,
anything except for the training montage at the very, very end of
right.
episode 4. So we need an
Hmm.
episode where he can do that stuff
Right,
without undoing all of the work that he's put in to not be Daredevil until like we actually need him to. Like I fully believe that was the entire point of that episode being placed where it was.
right. Yeah. And again, like I said, it doesn't by any means make it a bad episode. I mean, we'll get to our ratings later and at the end of the episode about what we thought about it. But I don't feel like it was as mood shifting and you know, story movement as number six was.
Agreed.
So, what stood out to you about number six, episode six?
Number 6, we're finally giving Muse some airtime. I think that was great or good that we like episode 6. We're finally acknowledging this guy who is a main villain in this series. And then again, like I said on last week's episode, I love what they're doing with Fisk being uncomfortable as the mayor because each time he's realizing that he cannot just bully his way into doing what he wants. He thought you become an elected official and you can get stuff done. You want to build this
Right.
port and do this, you can do that. You want to get this pothole fixed. No one's gonna have any issues with doing that. Like, and each time he tries to do something, whether it's the union, whether it's the police, whether it's the rich donors who would be kind of funding it, like he is realizing you can't just punch your way through this. Just because you have this title doesn't mean you can do what you want. And just each episode, him realizing that
Well,
he
the
can.
one lady, I believe, at the party said to him, like, I'll always be here. You're just a mayor. You're basically just
Yeah,
a mayor. Like,
yeah. You got
there'll
term
be,
limits, bro.
right. You're right. Like, there'll be another guy that comes in that will feed money to, that
Yeah.
will do our bidding the way we want it to. So, as much power as you think you might have had in, in the city as being mayor, which you see the two dynamics of him. He's the mayor. He's mayor of New York City, one of most powerful people in in the country. I mean, it is New York City,
Right.
and the one gangster does have the balls to confront him in the mayor's office,
And he walks out
which
alive.
walks out a lot. I mean, after basically was like telling him, "You're not ish," like,
Yeah,
what are you gonna do? You're not, I'm not gonna do anything. Like,
yeah,
you can jack the money up to $5 million. It isn't gonna matter. So on one hand, he's like neutered when it comes to that, and then he turns around like the obviously he flips it on his head when I mean I forgot to mention this during the summary, but he then goes to these clearly bad cops who have a lot of issues
yeah. That
and
one.
creates the anti-vigilante force, which I don't mind. Like people might be like, oh, like this is episode 6 and we only have 9, but you're already going to do a season 2, so you don't know
Right.
how much we're going to get into that now. But at least the creation of it, and you see where this again, if it follows Devil's Reign, if it follows the him really cracking down on vigilantism completely, like it's good to see at least the seeds of that growing with him confronting them and saying that. So it's like on one hand, he gets completely neutered by the guy who stood up. So like kind of to take back a little bit of the power, he's like, all right, like this, I'm done doing the red tape
Yes.
bureaucracy thing. I'm gonna go about this my own way and creates this task force.
That was a really good scene. Hit a little too close to home when he was talking about, oh, you guys don't need body cams. I was like, ooh, ooh, oh man. I was like, just pause this one and take a walk and I'll come back and finish the episode. But
Like whew, whew.
yeah, but it was such a good, like you said, it was him taking the power back and being like, okay, red tape here, red tape there, but him realizing, I guess, the back channels he can use as mayor to still bully his way into getting what he wants and establishing that. I thought, like you said, this is probably going to be a bigger season 2 storyline, but I thought that scene, him meeting with them and just being very blunt with them and hyping them up, I was like, okay, okay, I really like what they've done with his character throughout this
Especially
series.
when you get to the physicality. I mean, like we know as the audience that he's been eating sausages and pasta on the side, but in front of
Right.
Vanessa, he's still eating asparagus and egg
Yeah,
whites.
the egg yolks, egg whites.
Right. So it's like the physic the not metaphor, but I mean like the physicality of him outgrowing that his, when she puts his suit on, it rips and she's like, oh, like you're getting bigger, and just it the him trying to keep all that in, and it's going to come out, and he's
Yes.
going to be there's no way that he can keep what is naturally inside either one of them, Daredevil and Kingpin. Like
Yeah.
they can't keep these again, and it goes back to then the therapist is like, does the mask let them behave who they really are, or does it hide things about them? Like they've what is their mask? Because is the mayor his mask, or is Kingpin his mask? Is Daredevil his mask, or is Matt Murdock the mask? And I think we're finding out that their actual true masks are these people who they've been in episodes 1 through 5
Yeah.
thus far.
Well, I love that in the DC universe, I forget if it's a comic or a show, but there is a villain that is having the Justice League reveal their secret identities,
Hmm.
and and it's like this whole thing in Batman when they start asking him like all these different questions. At the end of the episode, he basically comes out and is like, "Yeah, like Bruce Wayne is my secret identity."
Right,
He has convinced himself. He fully believes Batman is the real him,
right,
and he's acknowledged it. He accepts it. And for these two characters, Wilson Fisk and Matt Murdock, it's like they're slowly realizing kind of
right.
what
The
Batman has
public, yeah,
decided years ago.
the public face is not right,
Yeah.
and I think they even did that kind of. I mean, like to leapfrog off of what you said, they even kind of did that really in this last The Batman movie, where
Yes.
where like Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne, like Alfred has to tell him like you you have to still pretend to
Yes.
be Bruce Wayne at times. Like
Go out
we
and
know
spend
this is
money and all that.
right. We know you're very much more comfortable being Batman, but
Yeah.
you have to put on your fake mask of Bruce Wayne and get out there and do all the stuff that you don't like to do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously we know that there's that theme as far as like just the mask and who's the true who are they truly, and who are they who is the real mask. And I think we understand, like, they've tried to just, I mean, he's even praying to Foggy's card at the beginning of that
Right.
episode. Like, just,
Yes.
to like, please, please, like, let's get him back into church because he it seemed like the only reason he was able to, and again, if we're using that the fact that Netflix seasons 1 through 3 were canon, like him being able to go confess at church allowed him to be Daredevil, but now he has nobody to confess to. So because he has nobody to confess to, it's almost like he's like, well, I can't do this. I don't have anywhere for my penance.
Right.
So right. So, and obviously we're getting into the corruption of what will be the anti-vigilante task force. That's not going to go great. I mean, sure, the people are going to probably get behind it because politicians can do have a lovely way of spinning a yarn to make you
Yes.
believe that what is bad is good. But did you feel like the two episodes were very cohesive?
Not really. And I do think individually they were great episodes,
Sure.
but to drop a double episode, you would think one leads right into the other, and they very much didn't at
Very
all.
much tonight. Right.
At all.
No.
So that was a little weird to me, but I mean, I'll take 2 episodes, but yeah, if I'm
Sure.
watching the season, that's a weird place to give me a double episode.
Do you feel like that's why they gave us the double episode? Because they knew that 5 was like thematically, it was not,
I
you
think
know,
so. I think the next few episodes are really going to ramp up, and I'm wondering if, because again, I thought it gave us because the main criticism that I've heard is we need more vigilantism. So
right,
I would have thought that if they had just dropped 5 on its own, that would have shut the people up, myself included. I like again, I've been critical of that.
right,
So yeah, I don't understand. If you had just dropped 5, I would have come on here and said it didn't move the story forward, but it gave me what I wanted.
right.
Now I'm questioning
Scratch
why
that
did
itch a little bit.
right, right.
Yeah.
But now I'm wondering like why did you give us 2 episodes that do not mesh at all?
I'm
But
wondering if that's why, though. I
yeah,
mean, if that's why, if it was like, okay, because we know where we're going with 7, 8, and 9, that if we do just 5 and then all of a sudden 6, 7, 8, and 9 happen the next week, it won't feel like there was, whereas it's like almost like if you could just take this as a sandwich pack, like you're just kind of like, oh, that was 5 was fun, but you're left with the taste of 6, like
yeah.
to linger into 7, 8, and 9. Whereas like it would be a weird tonal shift to watch 5 1 week and then we turn on 6 and this is where 6 is at.
That's fair. That's
Plus, I
fair.
don't know how much um did 5 have Muse at all? See,
No.
I
I
don't think
think
so.
again, I said 5 was like almost a bottle episode. I know
Sure.
they had some outdoor shots and stuff like that. So and the alley fight. So it wasn't a full bottle episode,
Right.
but no, it was pretty much just a Matt Murdock bank heist
Yeah.
episode. Looking for
Yeah.
funding because like you said, they've been taking a lot of pro bono work.
Right. Right.
I don't
So, we got a few pretty good, we got three, well, we got 4 pretty decent fight scenes. We had the stairwell one in the bank, we had the alleyway one at after the bank, and then you have him fighting Muse and you have Kingpin fighting Adam. I mean, I'm not really sure that was quite a fight,
right.
but I mean, fight scenes
It was just a
nevertheless. It was,
WWE just throwing a rag doll around.
and the tiny one of the swordsman at the
Yeah,
beginning
that
of the
little
episode.
clip, that little clip,
To
that was
remind you that he still exists out there after Hawkeye. Yeah, and he's kind of tied to Kingpin through what used to be Kate Bishop's mother. So,
yeah. I thought those fight scenes were really, really good. Like you said, the one in 5 where he basically had to fight this guy while in the stairwell while muffling the sound, I thought was
yes.
phenomenal because
Oh, yes.
you were showing his power of being able the awareness of everything, like dropping his foot to catch the shotgun, using the tie, sliding down the stairs to catch the shotgun, all of that, like I thought was not just breaking his arm in a different spot when he could have, because that would lead to a loud scream. Like that was an amazing fight. I thought again the alley fight at the end of the episode was very much a Netflix fight. It was very brutal. It was he doesn't really care who sees them because as far as anyone that was walking by, they wouldn't know that this was a blind guy. So he
Right.
was more aggressive and brutal in that one. So you got two different styles that were executed extremely well. And then, of course, at the end of episode 6, I thought that was just
Go ahead and
so.
say what you said about Muse.
Yes, who is Muse? This man can take a punch. He's out here doing the acrobatics. Like I watched it and was like, what Kingpin is doing to Adam is what should be happening to Muse right now. But Muse
Right?
was out here holding his own. Like I don't know. This man was trained by like the hand with Electra's people or something. Like
Right?
I'm wondering if they're gonna retcon some of his story or something because as good as it was, there was like I feel like if you know anything about the character, you're kind of like, this fight should have been over in like 30 seconds. Like, how is this guy getting back up? How is he landing punches? How is he dodging this and hitting a little kickflip off to the side? But
Yeah.
I
How
thought,
is he holding his
very-
own against?
how is he holding his own against one of the best
Yes.
hand-to-hand fighters?
Yeah. One of the best street fighters in in
Yeah,
Marvel.
I thought parallel, but putting the two fights and cutting them back and forth, I thought was just a beautiful touch because you could have given us one and then the other, but having this kick leading into Wilson Fisk doing the same thing and picking this guy up and slamming him into the table, and it cuts back to Daredevil, the yelling, the aggression, the mask breaking for both of them at the same time. That was phenomenal. I loved that.
Scream. Yes, them both screaming like they can I can I don't want I'll wait till the end of this, but I mean like I loved the intercut, the scene, just them, the mirror scene of just them finally releasing their inner selves to the situation at hand. I mean, one is Wilson Fisk slash Kingpin being the possessive, crazy, like taking out all of his frustration of the government and
Yes.
Vanessa and everything that's been happening, and the fact that like the cops are like kind of buffoons underneath him,
Yeah.
with this serial, like he said, like this, how does the sanitation guy is more knows more about the serial killer using blood than your own police, and you find out that he's killed like 60.
Yeah, which I have thoughts about that, which I can get into.
Go ahead.
Okay, so as I said at the beginning, we finally got some stuff about Muse, but I walked away from the 6th episode thinking, while you gave us more screen time, we still don't know enough about him. And my main
Sure.
points were we still don't they rushed slash ignored his blood thing. Like I know they talked about it, but I'm
Right.
like, there's a billion people in this city, and you're telling me no one knows? Like this guy is famous. Like girls wanted to take a selfie with him. You know who this guy is, or you know of him, but the blood thing is just now being figured out, and they kind of talked about it and then just kind of moved on. I was like, that was like that's kind of a big deal. Like it's not just Banksy, it's Banksy with blood, and he's a serial killer, but also, and New Rockstars touched on it, but I said it last week when talking about his murals. I was like, I don't know which way this guy is going because you built
Sure.
the mural for White Tiger and you sympathize with that, and you had the Punisher logo with Triggered going after the cops. So it's like, okay, so you feel bad for this guy. You clearly don't like the cops. You clearly don't like Wilson Fisk, but then you're also doing these other type of murals. You're also killing the citizens. It's like, what is his motive? And I feel like they haven't done enough to, like, we still don't know enough about this guy who is seemingly the main villain. Like I realize Wilson Fisk is the main villain. Like I
Right.
get that. But Muse is being presented to us as the main villain, and we still don't know enough about him. He's doing a lot, but we don't know which way he's going politically. We don't know why,
No.
what his motive is. We don't know any of that. And again, I still feel like 60 something people, they're like, what? That's crazy. So anyway, and I was like, okay, like that was my biggest issue.
Plus, he he says he's creating this. You don't get the impression that they think Muse is a vigilante. So
Right.
for him to create an anti-vigilante task force, is he is like I
Is he
understand that he
helping
gets a
Muse into everyone else?
yeah, it
When you
seems
say
odd that it
anti-vigilante, I'm thinking you're going after Daredevil, White Tiger if he was still around, the Swordsman, like which again, yeah, it's almost like Muse is not a part of that
yeah,
group.
like why are you right now? Why are you found out about Muse and him being a serial killer in your city, and he's painting these awful murals of you kissing a pig's butt,
Yeah.
and like so you're mad at Muse, but then you make it a vigilant an anti-vigilante thing, which is strange to me because you're like, do you think Muse is a vigilante? Like, do you think he's
Yeah.
a vigilante? Like this is
Well, also
it's a
his main vigilante foe is Daredevil, who you guys had a face-to-face conversation where Matt told you that he's quit being Daredevil, and up until that point, outside of the bank heist, which wasn't really
right.
Daredevil, like as far as you're concerned, he has kept that promise. That's your main vigilante foe. He has done nothing for the past year and a half, 2 years, and now you're going after vigilantes.
Right, you're going after vigilantes like you've never come across, you've never dealt with Spider-Man. You like
Right.
Bullseye's in jail. You don't know where, I mean, like, yeah, you had your run-in with Punisher a few years ago, but I mean, like, that's
He's
not
been off the grid.
right. That's
Who are your
he's
vigilantes?
right. Who are you exactly? Are yeah, that's like it's a very odd choice to have called it the Anti-Vigilante League when you're like, okay, your biggest problem is your serial killer right now, like that.
Yeah.
Who's doing murals at the moment. So like that's it was an odd thing to me. But I know we're gonna jump into kind of the where we think it's going or where we see it going. And I have you seen any of these the pics that are coming
I've
out
seen a
of
few of them. Yeah.
like of his black costume with the
Yeah.
DD on. Okay.
Yes.
And we're still assuming that Muse will be talking to his therapist at some point.
Again, we are 6 episodes, so essentially 6 hours in, and that one random scene where they meet and have that connection has
Right.
not been brought up since. And we talked about how her being involved with Matt, her being involved with Wilson and Vanessa, and her being involved with uh,
Muse.
Muse, all of those have to come to a head at some point.
Right.
And so far, like I realized the client patient privilege or whatever, so she can't go and tell her boyfriend, like, oh
Right.
yeah, by the way, I'm
Right.
working with Wilson, the mayor of New York. Like I
Right.
realize she can't just come out and say that, but you would think he would accidentally overhear a phone call or something.
Which is, but it's also crazy is because she's like, yeah, but like going on that where you're talking about like the patient privilege kind of thing, he's a lawyer. As far as she knows, he's a lawyer. And
Yeah.
she's like, you've represented Frank. And it's like, I mean, yeah, right. Everybody knows it that she had represented Frank, but I mean, like, you're wanting information about his client, as far as you
Right,
know, is just a
right.
client of his.
Yeah.
Like, that's ball. You would never expect him to
Yeah.
really,
Because he
really
wouldn't ask her, so how was your day? So give me specifics about who you're meeting with and how are their marriages or how is this going? He would never ask that.
right.
But
And do
she's
you
over
think I could
here.
interview them?
Yeah.
I'm writing a book on, divorce law. Like, that's just
Right.
crazy to me. Like, that's insane. So yeah,
Yeah.
we do still have ways to go, at least with that storyline. We don't know if Muse is going to be killed off, put in prison by the end of this series or not. But I mean, again, still really kind of no big complaints about the show overall.
Yeah.
But so what score would A through F, again, we use plus and minuses for episode 5.
I'm a broken record because I say I'm torn every week. And here I am again, I'm torn. Because my criticisms the last 2 episodes were we got zero Daredevil. We got a version of it, and I think we got the best version that they could give us at that moment for the story. A Daredevil not being Daredevil, but being Daredevil.
Right.
Thought it was great. My only criticism is that we are at episode 5 out of a 9 season. I think it was 9 episodes.
Yes.
You're like at or past the halfway point, and that episode did not move it along.
Right.
We still have like a lot of doors open. So it's like that hurt it a little bit. And as we said, you dropped the double episode. They didn't really flow together at all. So it's like, I can't give you an A, but also it's like the criticisms that I gave you last week, you addressed them in that episode.
Right.
You gave me what I was complaining about. So I
Right.
want to say thank you for that. But it just, I don't know. So I say like I'm torn. It's not an A, but I guess it's torn between like a B minus and a B plus. Because like B minus because it didn't flow, but a B
Right.
plus because you gave me what I was complaining about. I can
Right.
acknowledge I'm not just gonna complain week after week after week. I complained about this for episode
Right.
4. Literally episode 5, you said here.
Right.
I say B
Right.
plus.
Okay. All right. I would give it a B minus just for the fact that I didn't feel like it fit. I mean, again, I appreciate it. I appreciate the Easter egg and the shout out to Ms. Marvel and
Yeah,
acknowledging that we are in the MCU. I just felt like thankfully we had 6 to move because if we would have just gotten 5, it would have been like what are we like how like this you would think are we ever getting to anything this season?
right.
You're
Agreed.
just like how much time are we given to like this is crazy, like where are we going, like this is becoming a problem.
Yeah.
But because I think they did that I think it was an intentional part to get us to the next step in the story with 6. Yeah, I'd give it a B minus, but I
I
feel like
don't
again,
disagree with that. I don't
right,
disagree with that.
I don't feel like again that's a bad thing. That's just
Yeah.
kind of me being like, if I keep thinking if that one had just been on its own, how thrilled would I have been with that
Agreed.
episode? And you'd been like, it's a good episode, it's
Yeah.
funny, there were great moments in it, but you're just
Yeah. The
like,
only
are
reason
we
why it's
ever
not a B minus for me is literally because they addressed my complaint last
right?
week. That
Right.
is the reason that you went
No,
from
I
a
mean
B
that's
minus to
it's
a B
fair.
plus.
That's I mean that's it solved what you were wanting,
Yeah.
from what you were wanting from the season at that
Yeah.
point in time. What would you give 6?
I think I give 6 an A. I think I give it an A minus. A plus I think is like top tier. I think it
Sure.
moved the story along. The obviously the final scene really carried, but I thought overall, again, as I've said, they're doing different things with Murdock that I don't love. You've given me more Muse, but as I said, so maybe it's like a B, maybe it is a B plus for that one as well. Because I think the Muse thing is just like sticking out to me. The fight was great. What
Right.
they've done with Wilson this entire season, him struggling, he got to the level he wanted as mayor, but him still struggling to control things, I think is phenomenal. But I
Hmm.
think Murdoch thing is a little shaky, and then I think Muse lacking a sense of direction with his motivation and all of that. So maybe I say B plus. I'm teetering between an A minus and a B plus because I thought it was a very strong episode, but the Muse thing just it just bugs me.
Well, we'll flip flop. Last time I was a little bit more hard. I was actually willing to go down to C for episode 5, but
Really?
like you get
Oh,
me to be like B minus. So like I mean like you talked me off the ledge. So you went low, I went low, you went high,
yeah,
you went what's gonna be low, I'm gonna go A minus because I think we're kind of like feeling the same thing that like thankfully we got this was pretty good as far as all of the symbolism and the tonal shift and the fighting and the
right,
finally just I mean, yeah, it might be a little ham-fisted of like his jacket ripping and it not fitting and them releasing their inner beast. Maybe that's all really just kind of ham-fisted and like
right.
in your face and kind of but it was good because it's comic book. It's comic book
It's a
stories,
comic book,
like
exactly.
right like I don't mind that. That's great. It's what we were wanting this whole season. We were
Yes,
wanting he kept talking about like we knew that he had talked about giving up being a vigilante for Foggy and him praying to Foggy and it just how much he's wanting this just still isn't working and kind of his penance with Frank, you know, Castle, but it just really not taking in him. You could see the cracks on both of them leading up to this final moment, this final 10 minutes, 11, 12 minutes of
Yeah.
just the fighting, the constant. So yeah, I think I yeah, it was like I said, you were right. I mean, to be an A has got to be pretty, chef's kiss perfect.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're quite there yet. I think we have glimpses of it. And maybe after watching it all, I would love to, after it's all done, just to watch it all straight through. I just think five is going to look like a kind of a speed bump
100%. 100.
in this,
I
right?
think they acknowledged it, which, like you said, that is the reason they gave
Right.
us a double
We got
episode,
five and six,
because
right?
they know no matter what, you're gonna look at it and be like, that one just didn't fit. Kind of like how we felt about Agatha, the epilogue episode. It was the only place they could have put it
Right.
because it pretty much would have
Right.
exposed everything. So it had to be after the climax and the finale. But it
Right.
was like it was a good episode, but like we've already
Eh.
seen everything.
Right. You're like,
Now we're going back
eh.
in time.
Right. Yeah. You're just like, I know you like, yeah, it's like one of these things like, they shot it. There was probably nothing wrong with it. And they were like, this is pretty, I don't want to say pretty perfect episode, but
It
we've
doesn't
got, we
take
can't
away
just,
from anything we've worked on, so we might as well keep it because it's a good episode, but we don't
right.
have a
We
good
can't
place to put
scrap
it.
it.
Yeah.
Right. We can't scrap. Yeah. Like this would be, especially if they do end up using him as the mentor teacher for these young Avengers later. You kind of want to be able to like, well, how the hell does he even like run into, what's his tie to any of them?
Right.
So yeah, I think, like I said, I think it's going pretty good so far. I just think that like finally with six, we feel like there's kind of movement with the Rock. We're like shoving it uphill and like finally it's starting to turn over and we're getting what we need. And we know still there should be more Muse, there should be more Frank Castle. So, with seven, eight, and nine plus a whole season two, that's pretty good. Like
Yeah, and I feel
direction.
like the episodes have been good, and I think 7, 8, and 9 are really gonna start to boil. But I almost feel like they wanted to relay the groundwork because it's like the Netflix seasons are canon, but there are certain things that they wanted to change and are getting away from bringing
Right.
in the new characters. So it's almost like we're relaying the groundwork while still while still moving forward. So it's like season 2, I feel like is just going to hit the ground running.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's not a bad season.
No, not a bad suit,
There
not
haven't
at
been
all.
any
I mean,
bad
like considering
episodes.
the stuff that's being put out by Marvel, like you're encouraged. Like, oh,
Right,
okay, you do still know how to write some of these shows.
for sure.
So next week, I think they're just going back to the one
I think it's
episode.
just one.
So we got episode 7 coming up, and we should be able to bring this one to you a little bit sooner
Yeah.
because I don't think I have any movies this week, but that can always change at the drop of a hat. But we always look forward to whatever you have to say to us, any of us online, on Twitter, on Instagram, TikTok, on here. Just please let us know how you feel about it, how it's going so far. We think it's going pretty good.
Yeah.
Like not we're again, like as Mike Tomlin would say, it's going very good, not to be confused with great. So we can find both of us. You can find Will at Will WIL_DA
Is it
underscore
showing up for
beast.
me now?
No, you didn't change again. And you can find me at Holy L. And check out our TikTok on EntertainMix Pod, where
Yes.
Will also does updates on sometimes on basketball and opening day and all those kind of like sports related
Yes.
things that we like to dig into too. So we bid you adieu and subscribe, like, and let us know what you think. Bye.